Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for the official launch of RealSect Nigeria. My name is Ifama Fini, and I will be your host for this session. I'd like us to get interactive right away. I see some people are still joining, so if you could just let us know where you're joining from. Are you in Lagos, Abuja? Are you outside Nigeria? Just put that in the chat box. Your name, where you're joining from, what you do. It'll be interesting to see where we have our participants from. Welcome, everyone. Good evening. I'm also very excited about this webinar. We have a distinguished lineup of experts who are going to be speaking to us about different various topics, all in line with the launch events today of RealSect Nigeria. I won't talk too much about that because the founder and convener of this webinar, Ada Ufomadu, is on the call, and she will be taking us through the vision, the mission of this platform. Okay, I think we can get right into it. And I know that people will join as we move along. So today's session is themed Empowered to Thrive. And over the next hour, we'll explore what it really takes to build sustainable high impact businesses in a rapidly evolving environment. So a few housekeeping rules. Please be engaged. Feel free to put your comments, your questions in the chat box. We will let each of the speakers and then we'll take questions at the end. So please note your questions or please put them in the chat box as we go on. So I'd like to introduce our first speaker. His name is Mr. Ayo Lewis. He is the Group Chief Risk Officer of Sterling Holdco. So it's really my pleasure to introduce Mr. Ayo Lewis. He will share insights on the expectations, risks, and opportunities for businesses in Nigeria as we look ahead to 2026. Mr. Lewis, over to you.
Pleasure being here. I won't talk about risks so much. We'll take a look at where we're coming from, what do we see in 2026, and then we'll try and talk about the opportunities. So where are we coming from? Between 2023 and 2025, essentially we went through tough reforms that I dare say will require a long time, but we haven't had. So when you take those kind of reforms, of course, there's going to be a lot of pain. So yeah, we've seen inflation spike significantly. We've seen interest rates rise significantly. We've seen real wages go down. We've seen, when you look at the books of the big manufacturers, small manufacturers, we've seen FX losses, we've seen exchange rates normalize, albeit painful. We've seen energy costs rise, but all of that is price discovery. As we close 2025, we noticed that inflation began to trend downwards. Now, as inflation is trending downwards, you will expect that the rates in the markets, that's interest rates, will also begin to pivot as the central bank pivots its monetary policy rates. Exchange rates are between 1,400 and 1,500. Expensive, but it's available. That's price discovery. As interest rates begin to trend downwards, we expect that the markets are open for people to borrow, right? GDP growth in 2026 is forecasted at about 4.5%, driven mostly in services, technology, and agriculture, mostly. What are the effects of these reforms? So I'll try and take them one by one. First, subsidy removal. That's the bee up everybody's bonnet, right? So home price spiked suddenly. I think it crossed 1,000. Now we're in the 700 range. Power energy costs essentially went from, I think was about 22 naira per kilowatt hour. And then we went to 209 band A. FX from 300, 400, we went to 1,400. But this all creates opportunities, right? Massive adjustments, we'll all agree, yes, but it creates opportunities, significant opportunities. Let's take energy. If we look around, we already see the market adjusted. EVs are suddenly common in Lagos. I don't know about outside Lagos, but I know EVs have become suddenly common as people adjust to the high energy prices, particularly fuel costs. We see trailer freights retooling with CNG equipped trailers, essentially to move away from high diesel prices. You take a look at residencies and offices, you see solar cells above the houses, all the residencies and offices, essentially trying to adjust their energy mix. They aren't going to walk away from grid, but they're going to adjust their energy mix. They are not going to substitute grid with fossil, adjust their energy mix to bring down their costs. FX is more expensive, yes, but it's available. There's liquidity in the market. Nobody has to war game opening a letter of credit or anything like that. You want FX, you will get it to buy, albeit at a higher price. But that creates significant opportunities, right? Those who support light manufacturing, because the high FX prices has created opportunities for backward integration. So big industries are doing backward integration. You'll see it in oil palm. You see it in food grade starch. You see it in ethanol. You see that the large exporters of cocoa, for example, are doing integrate that they're trying to go further into processing. Those who support those industries will do well. There are opportunities there. The tax reforms, I know that in the last couple of weeks to 1 month, thereabout, there's been quite a lot of talk about it. But let's step back from it's always important to always step away from the noise and try and focus on how it affects us as individuals and as organizations. So I think for SMEs, you realize that for SMEs, for as long as your turnover is than 100 million per annum, your total assets are about less than 250 million, you are essentially operating tax-free. That is government using policy, tax policy in this case, to encourage growth. I just picked SMEs, but there are different nuggets in that entire tax policy. You can be rest assured that the large corporates have read that document and will take advantage of that document. Smart money says that everybody should take a closer look at the document and find out how it affects you and take advantage. It is government using tax policy to encourage growth in the economy. It's important for us to take advantage of that. It's also important whatever part of the economy we operate, right, in 2026 and going forward. As much as possible, let us keep all our transactions in the banking system. We should, as much as possible, not be afraid of the tax regime, but to embrace it. What do I mean by that? Take proper tax advice. There are tax attorneys and there are tax auditors in the system. It's best to talk to them. It's best to keep proper books of accounts. Why is that important? As interest rates trend downwards, access to credit will come back. If you look at aggregate credit to the real sector in the last 2 years, it's gone down as interest rates have trended up. But credit will come back to the real, and as credit comes back, those who will have access to credit are those who keep proper books of accounts, those who are tax compliant. Because if you read the entire tax document, there are so many reasons why you should be tax compliant. And that compliance also requires or places certain burdens on, I believe, all organizations, including banks. So best to be tax compliant. I will also try and talk about something that is operating slightly outside Lagos that has affected the economy significantly. That's the refinery. Now, it's beyond petroleum products. It's a large petrochemicals complex. What that means is essentially it has changed not just white products, but you'll notice that it has changed the dynamics around petrochemicals, around those things that people buy to produce plastics in various forms. Those things used to come out of Korea or Asia with long lead times and consuming capital. You tie down quite a bit of money to bring in those items into the country. It's available offshore. So there's so many opportunities around that particular industry and around all those who are doing backward integration and light manufacturing. So GDP at 4.5 in the new year, interest rates coming down, real wages actually will begin to trend upwards because inflation is trending downwards. Prices are not coming down, right? They're still rising, but at a slower rate. It enables industries to plan. We all know the price of petroleum products. Is that you are able to plan? We all know most of the items on the shelves today, the prices are not rising. They're not coming down, sorry. They're rising at a slower rate, much slower rate. So companies can plan. There's hardly anything you consume today that is rising at a very fast rate, so you can plan. And taking advantage of the markets today, like I said, services, technology, and agriculture. In agriculture, mostly in value addition.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lewis. Thank you. I think those were excellent points. And I did get some, key takeaways. I know everybody has been talking about the tax reforms, and, there is some fear around that, but I think that's to encourage you to say, you know what, you should embrace it. And, you do keep accurate books. If you make sure your money is in the system, you will be able to take advantage of things like access to credit. So I think that was a really great point. In addition to all the sectors that you mentioned, science, technology, and agriculture that are that people can be able to take advantage of. Thank you very much, Mr. Lewis, for that brief note. Okay, so I'm going to move along now to the reason why we're here. So I would like to introduce Ada Ufomadu. She is the founder and convener of RealSect. And really, she's the vision. She's the reason why we're here. And she's going to be talking to us about the purpose, the mission, and the impacts that this platform seeks to create. So please join me in welcoming Ada Ufomadu as she shares her thinking and her intention behind this movement. Ada, over to you.
Yes, thank you very much, Ifoma, and a very special thank you to everyone who is on the call this evening. It really means a lot to me. I'd like to give a very special shout out to my boss, Ayo Lewis, who has graciously set the context and the background or a foundation on which our conversation will now be built. And also, lastly, thank you very much to my other speakers whom you will be hearing from in a few minutes. Opeyemi, thank you very much for doing this with me, and Lola as well. They'll be speaking very shortly on critical matters for businesses. So I would advise that you stay to the end. I'm even looking forward to listening to them. Over the next 15 minutes, hopefully, or less, I will be speaking about the vision of RealSect Nigeria. Of course, being the founder, I'm hoping that I can explain or I can get you into my head so you understand the why behind this project. It's a big project for me. It means a lot to me. And I'm hoping that I can explain where this initiative is coming from and that hopefully you know how you can fit in and we all can make this work and make it happen. So to help you better understand why I'm doing this, allow me to share a bit about my professional journey, my career that has spanned close to 2 decades now. And the objective really for sharing my career with you or my professional journey is that I want you to see how the experiences that I've had and the learnings that I have obtained from those experiences have led me to where I am today. So largely I've been in the financial services sector all my career life, but in different segments, in the banking segment, in credit ratings. I did a bit in public sector, the debt management office, but largely financial services. I started off with banking, corporate banking, and then treasury. And what those experiences taught me, especially treasury, is how emotional the market is and how the market always reacts to signals and sentiments as much as they react to fundamentals, and also how policy directly impacts how the market behaves and ultimately how or where the cost of money or cost of capital gets to. So that experience helped me understand that. So please stay with me. There's a journey I'm going on, and I'm going to land somewhere. Then after doing banking for a few years, I moved to credit ratings, which I did for more than a decade and which I'm still doing at the moment at Sterling Holdco. I learned from the two largest rating agencies in Nigeria, Agusto and Co. and GCR, which is now Moody's. I learned immediately the direct relationship between how a company is perceived and assessed, whether it's financial or non-financial, and how that directly impacts their access to capital from any investor, especially from the debt sort of investors. So not only how they're able to access capital, but at what price they're able to access capital. So when you give a credit rating to an entity, investors look at the credit rating and they can immediately begin to have discussions and decide at what cost they want to lend or give monies to these businesses. So that was my experience, and that has been my experience with credit ratings. But I also spent a bit of time in the public sector, like I mentioned earlier, where I worked with the DMO, the Debt Management Office, for about a year. And working with the DMO just helped me also to understand the other options that are available to capital, which could have been accessible to the real sector. So the opportunity cost of capital and how the demand of the government in terms of where the fiscal position is can determine how much capital is available to businesses and at what price it will be available to businesses. So if I put these experiences together and I summarize in 2 or 3 sentences what I have learned and my understanding of my experiences, they'll be summarized in this second block that you can see here, and I'll just read it out. There are opportunities in Nigeria, and those opportunities are numerous and they are enormous. There are a lot of opportunities. However, these opportunities require funding, especially if they're going to scale, if they're going to operate at levels that are meaningful for a population like Nigeria, or even, begin to serve markets outside of Nigeria. Funding is important for scaling. However, capital would only flow to areas where there is clarity and where there is less uncertainty. So that's a summary of my experience put together. Capital would always flow to where there is clarity and where there is less uncertainty. So why RealSect? Why this initiative? Just after giving you the background, why have I come up with this initiative? I think that the real sector is really the growth engine for any economy. And the real sector, the initiative is really based on those opportunities that Ayo spoke about initially. If you notice, when he started speaking, he sort of he didn't really say a lot about the risks, because in our opinion, we feel that most of the risks that the country has faced, but the opportunities are even louder than the risks. So the RealSect initiative is based on those opportunities. How are we able to take advantage of these opportunities? There are lots of opportunities in the real sector, and the real sector is the growth engine of the economy. When you think about its contribution to GDP, if you think about contribution to employment, to job creation, even contributions to FX revenues that help us to stabilize the currency and all that, there's just a lot that happens in the real sector. And coupled with the opportunities that we see, we're not asking ourselves, how do we take advantage of those opportunities? How do we milk them? How do we make them become reality, in Nigeria? Because the truth is, if we're working towards a $1 trillion economy, which I personally believe Nigeria is worth and Nigeria has, a lot of people don't think we can make it. But if we're going to achieve the $1 trillion economy that we desire, we need to have a strong real sector. we need to have a strong real sector. So while we see these opportunities, I also see a paradox. And what are the paradoxes I see? We have viable businesses that cannot scale because they do not have access to the sort of funding that need them to scale at meaningful levels. Another paradox is the strong demand we see in the market, but we see very weak balance sheets. There are high interest rates, but there are low margins for businesses. We have great founders, the matriarchs and patriarchs of businesses, good concept. They've grown businesses, they've run businesses for years, but if you look closely at their corporate governance, it's weak. So how do we balance these paradoxes? How do we take the opportunities in the Nigerian context, even with these things that we see, the risks that we see? How do we address them in such a way that we can harness and bring out those opportunities to reality? And for RealSect, we're saying that we need to have conversations. We need to talk about things. There are conversations, meaningful conversations that have to happen, because I believe that every achievement begins with a conversation. Everything big that is achieved in life, whether you're looking at it from a business perspective, if it's a marriage proposal, if you're talking to your children, whatever it is, it all begins with a conversation. So how do we start to have those conversations that are impactful, that are meaningful, that are real, that address issues, that help businesses make progress? That is why Real Sector was created. So what is Real Sector about? I mean, I'm sure you can already deduce from the name that the focus is the real sector. So RealSect is coined from the word real sector. And that's because the real sector is the focus. RealSect is a movement that is committed to three major objectives. We want to educate, we want to expose, and we want to engage. We're educating businesses on how to run operationally in an effective manner and in a sustainable manner, right? What are we going to do? We're going to demystify business concepts, things around finance, corporate governance, help businesses understand what strategy is, risk management, human capital, how to put the structures in place and how to make them work in a way that the businesses are able to live for a long time. In terms of education as well, we're looking at advocacy for policy. We're also going to be giving industry insights, again, from a Nigerian context. We want to expose the Nigerian market, the opportunities that we see. But we're not just going to talk about the opportunities, we're also going to talk about the risks so that we give a balanced view, so that investors have clarity on what the Nigerian market is about and about the opportunities. So then they can, when they have this clarity, capital can flow, and then we can have the kind of growth that we want to see. In terms of engagement, we're building a community of professionals and industry operators who are available and accessible to drive conversations that can help businesses thrive. And ultimately, our goal is to empower businesses. We're empowering for sustainability and we're empowering for growth. How do we hope to achieve this? Conversations, really, that's the base. We're having conversations, whether it's through spoken conversations or written conversations. We need to have, those insightful conversations. And this would happen through podcasts, through webinars, through publications, in terms of written conversations. And we will put all this out for businesses to be able to access and then to engage us. And then we begin to build the sort of businesses we want to see. Who are we targeting? We're targeting you, right? If you're an industry operator or a professional, you are a target. If you're an investor, if you're a lender, if you're a policymaker, we want everybody in the room, because we believe that when we have conversations with everybody in the room, then we can begin to make real progress about the challenges that we see, and then we can share knowledge and strengthen the real sector. So I'll just pause here and then I'll hand over to Ifoma to do the unveiling. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you very much, Ada. That was honestly truly inspiring. I work in the finance space as well. And, what you said about capital will flow to areas that, that are clear, that have clarity and certainty, right? Really resonated with me. So well done. I really appreciate, the fact that you're going into all these sectors, the real sector. And it'll really be interesting to see how, the community grows and develops. And so my name is Ifeoma Fini, and this is the exciting part of the webinar. We will be unveiling and formally launching RealSect Nigeria. So please, your reactions, your clap reactions as we unveil. Ada, if you could just show the logo and the social media handles. RealSect Nigeria it's on LinkedIn, it's on Instagram, it's on TikTok, it's on YouTube as well. So if you can just scan the QR code and connect with us. So I'm going to give everyone a couple of minutes to join on all platforms, not just LinkedIn or Instagram or what, join on all the platforms that you are on. And once you've done that, please comment, followed, and connect with us. We have a couple of minutes and then we move into our next session. I'd like to quickly move us along to the next, be hearing from distinguished experts in their fields. The first speaker I have is Lola Adeyemo. She is the AI consultant for Vibe Code Africa, and she will be speaking on the topic, the AI ready business, why 2026 is the last year to choose your side. That sounds like an interesting topic. So I'm also looking forward to listening to what she has to talk about AI. So very, very excited about this talk. So over to you, Lola.
Thank you so much, Ifeoma. You're an amazing host. Thank you. And to my sister Ada, congratulations on this amazing feat. I have been on the podcast, so I know how there's an experience that you get when discussing with you. You are naturally a host because you are very interested in everything. At least in my session, you were very interested. You were asking questions like that came truly from your heart. So I think it's going to be an amazing contribution to the society. And I just can't wait to see how far you go. All right. So my name is Lola Adeyemo, and my topic is AI ready business. Why 2026 is the last year to choose a side, and I will tell you a bit more about what this means. But before I do that, I would like to just give a brief introduction of who I am, just so that you understand where all of my information is coming from. I was going to show you something fun here. Let me see if I can do it. 1 second. I was going to get you to guess which of the images was AI generated, and now the real one, let me just put that out there. The AI generated one is still on the screen, but the real one is no longer there. But anyways, just to give you a brief background about me, I'm an AI consultant. Basically, what I focus on is helping leaders and organizations understand where AI works in their organizations or in their personal workflow. I recently co-authored a book along with 33 other amazing AI experts, and it's something that we're really proud of because it became an Amazon bestseller in the first day of its launch. So it's something that we're really excited about. It just happened in December. I have spoken across the US, the UK, and Africa. And I'm not just a speaker, I'm also a builder. So I specialize in building AI-powered websites, workflows. My background is in project management and portfolio management, which I have done for the better part of 10 years, focusing on or working with Fortune 500s across the US. And I'm the founder and CEO of Vibe Code Africa. Vibe Code Africa is an AI literacy movement that focuses on AI literacy for Africans everywhere in the world, just so that we can create generational wealth and improve our businesses using the power of AI. And as we're going to explore, the thing that makes me the most passionate about AI is because I personally experienced a transformation with AI. As you can see, like I said, my background is in project and portfolio management. I do have that knowledge, but I'm not a technical person. I've managed software engineers, but I've never coded in my entire life. However, when I started to learn AI, I was able to use AI in 3 months to build an application that solved a problem in my industry So basically, in 3 months, because of AI, I went from, just one person who had just one kind of knowledge, one kind of skill, to being a founder of a tech startup. And that transformative power was what unlocked like all the kind of limitations and possibilities or impossibilities that we've kind of been conditioned, not just as Nigerians or Africans, but also as a world to think, you go to school, you earn one degree, you do that one thing. You're a business who does this one thing, and that's the one thing that you do. With the power of AI now, you can expand. There's so many things that you can do. I'll move us along here to the next slide so that we start to go deeper into the reason I tagged my session, what I tagged it. So, along with other experts, I believe that there is a closing window between where we are going. For instance, last year, lots of people were saying, or let's say even in 2024, a lot of people were saying, wow, have you heard about this AI thing? Have you seen this AI thing? It was this AI thing. Last year, towards the end of last year, almost everyone had had interactions with ChatGPT. In fact, before you download one app, two more have sprung up. Before you even learn one app, the update for that same app that you downloaded has come up. So we can see how fast it's moving. This is also one of the capacities of AI. There's a speed and a transformation that it runs with that can transform organizations. Currently, it's being called, or I refer to it as a leveler. Some other experts refer to it as an equalizer. And basically what that means is that in this current state, artificial intelligence can have a small organization that has probably 5 employees to 10 employees to actually comfortably compete with a major big organization because they have an AI powered marketing team, an AI powered sales team, and AI, all of those AI agents that they've been able to inculcate into their unit, into their organization, now makes them to give this big organization, to have these organizations to start fidgeting. However, we also believe that by 2028, I strongly think it's going to be by next year, like the end of next year, that's this thing that we're enjoying, this wide level playing field that we're enjoying will begin to shrink. And the economy, the world's economy will divide into a portion of people who got successful with using AI, who understand it, who were able to leverage it to improve themselves or improve their businesses, and the other side of people who either failed to use it or failed in their trying to use it, or the ones that didn't even try at all. And so it's important that we understand that there is a time limit to, you cannot just think about AI as, oh, okay, I will get there one day, we'll think about it one day. You have to consider it as something that's important to take advantage of now. It is even better for Nigeria because in Nigeria, I mean, compared to the United States and other nations, there is a flexibility that we have. There is a way that we have made businesses work. I tell many organizations I consult for is, if you really want to stress test your application or your business, go and launch it in Nigeria or any African nation. Because if it can survive in the environments that we have, if you have a successful business in the environments that we have, and somebody that spoke before me, I can't remember if it was Ada or Ayo, said that there are a lot of opportunities in Nigeria, and it's opportunities that have been created despite the environments that we have. So I'm going to move us along to the next slide and talk about solutions. We understand AI is here. We need to adapt. What can we do to adapt? As an organization, the very first thing you would need, and this is basically free consultation from me to you, the very first thing that you would need to do to adapt is identify. Don't try to think of where can I plug AI in my organization, or even as an executive, as a leader, as a person. Don't try to think of what can AI do for me? Where can I plug it into my organization? Think of a problem that you have that costs you so much money or so much time. That's the first assignment that you need to do. When you find that problem, now there's probably a list of problems. I'm not saying that problem can especially be solved by AI. I was working with a real estate company last year, and they had a problem that had to do with, I think, people stealing fuel on the road from one state to another state. How is AI going to solve that? I don't know yet. However, there are problems within your processes, within your workflows that AI can solve. So identify what is sinking your time, what's sinking your money. The next thing then, when you find a good use case, and you can do it in collaboration with someone who is AI savvy, or with an AI consultant, or with your chat GPT. So when you find that thing that is a time waster or a money waster, a money hole, basically sinks your money and your time, find an AI tool that can work with this. Now, I put some AI tools here, and I'm going to basically just reveal to you that this slide that you're looking at, that looks like as if I spent days working on it, was generated. All in all, everything I did was about 30 minutes, 45 minutes to generate this slide. And the reason is I know my stuff. I have spoken about this. I have consulted on this. So it was easy for me to pull my resources that I have already built over the past few months together. I pulled all of them together. I dropped it in this application called Notebook LM. It is a free application. So Notebook LM, I dropped all of that in, and then I used it to create for myself a slide deck. So it literally, I took maybe 5 minutes. It took 5 minutes to go through my stuff, and then it brought out a slide deck. I looked at the slide deck. I didn't really like it because it wasn't aesthetically pleasing. And I dropped it into this current tool that I'm sharing here called Gamma, and it gave me the kind of slides that I wanted. Now, ChatGPT and Claude, these also have free tiers. Claude AI, I believe it's one of the most intelligent LLMs that exist. So I would definitely, suggest that you try it out if you haven't tried it out. But these are just basically tools that you can use at the inception to try out things, and all of them have free tiers, so you don't have to commit to anything yet. Now, if your industry is very specific, or if you have there are definitely AI tools that are specialized to certain industries. For marketing and sales, there's a tool called Apollo.io. I think that's the website. So there is an AI for almost everything. And then the third thing that you want to do, the third move, is upskill your people, upskill your workforce. Your people already have broad knowledge of what AI is. The tool that I created, that I founded, was basically from my pain as a project and product manager. When I built that tool, I showed it to about 100 other product managers, and they were like, one person literally was praying for me because of how useful it is to us. So just imagine those people who have decades of experience or years of experience in their field having something that they can direct to do things faster based on their knowledge. So it's important that you upskill your people. These are the 3 moves you can make right now, or you can start to plan on making today. At the very least, you can start to do number 1 or number 2 today. All right, so here I'm just going to talk briefly about the true cost of AI. Now, a lot of people would say, that AI tools are expensive, or investing in AI is expensive. It might seem so. First of all, I already just gave you some free tiers. So there are some free tools that you can use, especially when you're talking about yourself as an individual. But as a business, there are tools that you can try out before you go ahead and invest in it. And when you compare the cost of investing in an AI powered, let's say you want to, redesign your entire organization and go through a digital transformation, the cost of doing that versus the cost over the years of maintaining the same workflow while the world is changing, number one, is going to be exponentially higher. So it is an investment. It's just like when you go to school, for instance, you invest so much money in getting an MBA at Harvard. It's going to be a lot of money, but taking that certificate and being able to associate yourself as a graduate of an MBA from Harvard, the opportunities after that graduation they are endless. They are so wide. And so that's the same thing you want to think about here, especially as business people. And I'm sure that, a lot of people are already thinking about that. So investing in AI today, especially while the grass is still green, is very important for all of us. And as time comes up for me here, I'm just going to show you this, my last slide. Basically, this is my contact information. So if you want to talk more about AI, this is something that I love to talk about. You let me know. Go ahead and scan my link or my barcode, and you'd be able to see my information. Thank you, Ada. Thank you for this time, and I hope somebody has learned something today.
Thank you very much, Lola. I think that was very helpful. I think everybody will be taking notes. There's so much talk about AI, and you've just showed us that, in fact, we should be using it, we should be investing in it, and, we could pay later, the cost of inaction. And so I think that's something that everybody will and should take note of. So thank you very much for joining us. I know you have to leave very soon, so, have a good evening. And thank you once again for joining us. I'd like to move to another expert. Her name is Opeyemi Oduwole. Opeyemi is the Associate Director, Family Office and Private Clients in KPMG, Nigeria. So as powerful as AI and technology is, sustainable businesses, we know, are ultimately built on strong governance, structure, and accountability. So to unpack this, please help me and join me in welcoming Opeyemi Oduwole. She will share insights on corporate governance and why it is critical for long-term business success. So, Opeyemi, over to you. A round of applause with your emojis.
So, good afternoon, everyone. I just want to confirm that you can all clearly hear me, and I've had a lovely time. And the way I think in my head, I think about this and I think about a whole ecosystem. And I'm saying to myself, what we're learning today from the macro, which does my business fit in, or what does my business plug in, to the future of work, which is where is technology and digitization taking me. Now, I'm going to be speaking, and I'll share my slide very shortly, about the things to keep an eye on to make your business thrive. And this goes both ways. So if you're an entrepreneur, right, these are things that, as I've sat with so many entrepreneurs, and I sit with, the beauty of it is I sit with owners of businesses, and I sit with them sometimes at their most vulnerable, right? So they're telling you, I wish I had done this. I think if I had done this, this could have played out differently. And I'm a sucker for knowledge. So I ask all the questions, right? And then I'm also sharing this from the point of view of, these are the things that I did that worked, right? So this is a combination of, I wish I had paid attention to this. This is what I did that worked. And based on research and data in KPMG across the world, these are the different things that we have seen that will make the difference. Now, if you are a private credit person, you are a lender of capital, you are even working in a business, these are also things that you start to look out for to ensure that where you are, the business is going to be sustainable or it's going to thrive. And I'm going to share my screen. Again, Opeyemi Oduwole, I'm a certified financial analyst. Started out as a chemical engineer. If I had, as in now, I do processes, systems, and structures for people, but I started out learning it for production. And I mean, it just worked out that way. I'm certified with trust and estate planning for family businesses. And I've worked across the many countries in terms of helping people put their structures together, and also sat in many conversations. And I'm going to make this very fast in terms of so please bear with me. I'm going to slow down a bit and try and touch on 7 points that are literally critical. They look like they are not in the process of you chasing revenue. And because I've sat with entrepreneurs, even when I was in banking, and I was in banking for many, many years, ran quite a number of businesses in there in the private wealth space. Even when I was in banking, before I moved to consulting, a lot of times we talked to our clients about the revenue. Sometimes we talked about the structure. But as I sat with clients and as I sat on the other side, so I've sat on two sides, I started to see that there are certain things that if they are not in place, even if you're a funder of businesses, and I know there are people that do private credit, there are family offices that do private credit, there are HNIs that fund people's businesses, and this thing is not far. There are people that fund mom and pop shops. So there are people that do 2 million naira towards that, that business that has that turnover. But there are certain things you start to look for. Now, the very first thing I would be saying you would look for is structure and operational excellence. I am literally appealing. Expansion will fail if you don't have structure and operational excellence. Why? and I will make it very simple for you. You either are going to your barber, let's make it very relatable, the guy that cuts your hair, or the lady that does your hair in the salon. And you start with this lovely lady that had a beautiful salon, or guy not too far from your house, really good at their job. And because of that, everybody now comes there. So before you would get there, right, and you would wait for 10 minutes and then they'd start doing your hair or they'll start cutting your hair. Now, because everybody's coming there, they're waiting for 30 minutes, 45 minutes. That person is not the one cutting your hair. That experience is not the same. What would you do? I literally can't see the chat. If I would have told you to drop in the chat for me what you would do, what you would do is you probably go. And this I just said is what happens to a lot of businesses that makes them plateau. So they start out really great, right? And because they're really great, they expand. But because the person did not prepare for expansion with the view of the resilience and the doggedness, it takes to put structure and operational, and it is a dogged resilience journey, right? To put structure and operational excellence in place, they end up losing that, momentum, because everybody comes, has a brief experience, and they leave. Because of time, the second thing I usually would tell it as we go, and this scales as you move from stage to stage. So this is not, I'm a small business. This would apply to the largest businesses, just like it applies to the small ones. We talk about partnerships. Partnerships are real. They matter and they come in different forms. There's peer-to-peer partnership. You are partnering with somebody that, maybe you have a project, it's a bit larger than you, you partner with someone to do it, that's peer-to-peer. There's peer to moving up or down your ecosystem, not up or down in terms of capacity or growth, but up or down in terms of where they are on the chain of your ecosystem. I remember somebody that used to make yogurt, the base of yogurt, from the north, and was a supplier to almost everybody that did dairy milk products in the whole of Nigeria. Now that everybody that was partnering with her is a partner, right? She's not smaller than them, she's probably larger than them. So partnerships are real. And if you think that you are not ready for partnerships, you're not ready to scale. Neither are you ready to thrive. Now, peer to employee, people don't think their employee are their partners. The best employees are the ones that think they're your partners, because they feel like they have a stake in the business. Now, when you see your employees as your partner, you handle them differently. And because of time, we could have done a deep dive into that, but we don't have time. So I'm just going to move to the quality of your team, because we talked about your employees as your partners. Now, the quality of your team, no matter, I love AI, right? I'm a fan, right? But guess what? My classic example is when everything goes wrong and human beings are screaming, you still need another human being. You need compassion. You need somebody that has a listening ear. You need to feel seen, heard, and understood. And that involves emotions. So the quality of your team will make or break your business. And it will break it so badly if you don't do it right. So the fact that you are not training your team members, if you are not, to be the best that they can be, is not about them, it's about your business. Now, people say to me, oh, if I train my team members and they leave, then I've wasted money. And I say to them, but there are ways that you can keep people working with you for a little while before they leave. So at least you extract some value. Again, we don't have time to talk about those structures. Those are HR type conversations, right? But you need, when your team is not trained, they cap your productivity. They cannot think farther than where they are. So what usually happens is you are carrying the weight of the business. You are the business, and there's nothing wrong with that model. There are some people that are the business, but if you are the business, then you need to know you are the business and not expect the people under you to play at your level, right? And if you are not the business, then you need to train the people so that you can have a little breathing room to sit down and think. I was listening to Richard Branson. I listened to Richard Branson, Jeff Bezos, and there was one other person I'm trying to remember. All own multiple businesses, and all they said, the third one was an Indian man, I've forgotten his name. They said, I hire the best CEOs to look after my business. I think about deployment of capital. I think about deployment of capital, rate of return, long-term vision. I do not have the time to manage their day-to-day. And these are the big boys. Now, Succession. We've done a podcast on succession, and I'm sure Ada can share the link to the podcast with you. There's so much to discuss about succession. Oh, but I just remember, sorry, pardon me. I just remembered one more thing about quality of your team. I need to warn somebody. Over dependence on one employee is the equivalent of having key man risk. So even when we are lending money as credit, those are the people that, owners of capital to businesses. Sometimes you need to be worried about the fact that one person is carrying the responsibility of a large portion of the business. Because what we have seen over time from a structure perspective is that if that one person ups and leaves, the gap is so wide in your business that it takes sometimes years for you to be able to stabilize all over again. It even happens to teams in organizations. So what the best organizations do is it is in your best interest to split the work. Critical positions. I know you love that wonderful young man or woman who is shooting out the lights, bringing in all the business, seems to be a savant in everything they're doing, but key man risk. Remember, it is in your best interest to split it. I'm now going to go into succession planning quickly. Succession planning is a long-term game, and it is not a waste of your time. The reason why, and you will need help with it, and the reason why is because, as I say to people, if you know you don't want that business to pass to the next generation, with your whole mind, sell it when you're tired, and prepare to sell it. Oh, that's another conversation. You prepare to sell your business because you see, you cannot work for 40 years and then sell it for a pittance just because you did not look at structure and governance. You could have had an advisory board, right? You could have put HR structures and put people in departments and have KPIs and appraisals, and that alone would have upped your company valuation. Just because you thought that that was not important and you didn't have three people who could take over your business, by the time you have your business in consulting, your value, because it's not only about your fixed assets, there's also brand equity, there's also there are non-tangibles that are measured. So all of a sudden, all your sweat is much less than what it could be just because you didn't take time to build your business towards selling or plan your succession, whatever you want to do, but please plan succession. Mistakes, failures, and growth go together. So if you don't want the people in your team to make mistakes, if you don't want them to fail, then you don't want your business to grow. In fact, the best businesses give room for leakage. So when they're building their budget, right, they put a little buffer in there for, if something goes wrong with this project, do we have to pivot, right? Are we able to, navigate around that, right? And I say to people in Nigeria, even all over the world, please build a system that can manage instability. One of the ways systems manage instability is a cash buffer. So when you're putting money aside in that business, you're not unwise. You're actually saying, if the delay happens with this, will we be able to pay salaries for 3 months or 6 months? If this happens, and then please stress test your team, because what you don't prepare for, you are preparing to fail. So the day that they tell them that you need to deliver something in 20 hours, right, and you have never stress tested them in that regard, all of a sudden you're running helter-skelter. The sixth thing is a vision. You will never go farther than what you can see. And the thing I love about vision is you don't even have to see it all. Sometimes you literally just need to say, I can't see farther than this. I need somebody that can see farther than me. I'm looking for somebody that can see what I cannot see. Because let me explain why. The MD of a business in startup phase requires not slightly, a different set of skills. Usually, well, not that different, but to accelerated growth. There are some other skills you now require. By the time they are plateauing in the business, you are looking for another set of skills. If you are handling change, you are looking for another set of skills. So if you don't know where you are and you don't know where you are going, how do you know who to hire? What if you hire somebody who is better in a startup for a business that is plateauing, where you need stability? You need somebody that knows how to manage relationships very well. You might not necessarily need the strongest business development is always a thing, but your business development by that time is solid, right? So you're not looking for that. You're looking for somebody that will hold those relationships tight and allow other people to grow. It depends on what you're looking for. So vision is critical. And it's okay to say to yourself, I don't have the vision to carry this forward. I need somebody else to do it, and then get the people to help you do that. And the last one I said is vision, but it's actually your why. Why is your business successful? Why do people come to you? You need to analyze it, you need to maximize it, and you need to know when to pivot from it, if you ever need to pivot from it. Because sometimes you might, for some people, their why is their core, right? And everything else can move around. For some people, their why is not their core. There was an example we had when we were doing one of our surveys, and the family said, we realized our business was no longer viable. So we had to sell out of that industry, and we are now saying, what do we want to do? So I would, and this is the point I leave with you with. As the owner of a business, I know it's not easy. I know you're chasing revenue. I know you're trying to manage costs. I know you're managing your inventory. You're trying to standardize service. But then the reason why you're a superstar is because as you're doing all of that, you're also doing all of this. And we look forward to celebrating you a few years from now as you continue to pivot, as you continue to evolve, and as you continue to build that amazing multi-billion naira business. And I think I will stop here.
I'll just say an amen to that. Please type in amen, because that was what you ended with. Thank you very much, Okpeyemi. I'm sure everyone who's on call, has gotten the insights. We've just provided you for free how to, build and how to sustain a business. I really loved some of the points that you raised, around key man risk. People don't really think about that. Around the quality of your team. Yes, there's AI and you have all the tools, but emotion, listening ear, those are the key things that matter. So thank you very much, Okpeyemi. That was an excellent talk. Okay, so I will move on to, we're now into our question segment. You've heard from all our speakers, Mr. Ayo, Mr. Ayo Lewis is still on the call. I believe Lola has dropped off. Ada is here as well, the founder of RealSect, and Okpeyemi, who you've just listened to, is still on the call. So please, now is the time to put in your questions, anything at all, anything about the topics, anything you've listened to, anything about RealSect, please put in your questions now, and I will read them out, and we will outline basically, or if you could just say who you want to ask the question to, and then we will take the question. So we have about, I think, 10 minutes for this segment. So please, we will take as many questions as we can. So I have the first question here. I think this can be for Ada. Is RealSect about helping in corporate governance as well? So this is from Osahon Okoduga.
Yes, thank you, Osama, for the question. Yes, so I mentioned in my presentation that one of the things that we're doing, one of our pillars is actually engagement, right? Engagement. We're building a community of professionals like the 2 or 3 that you've heard speaking today. Professionals who are willing and available to support businesses in different aspects. Corporate governance is inclusive, things around risk management. The whole idea is if a gap in your business that you have identified and you need a professional who can start the initial conversation with you, right? We can have those sort of conversations through our community in RealSect, and then you can take it to the next level depending on the challenges are. So the short answer to that question is yes.
Okay, that has been answered. We have another question. My question is for Mr. Lewis. I'm wondering how much risk you believe political changes in 2027 might offset the gains from Tinubu's reforms and general macroeconomic conditions. So over to you, Mr. Lewis.
So political risks. I'll answer the question this way. Most of the reforms we've seen over the last couple of years, all the candidates really who ran for presidency the last time all wanted to implement those reforms. So in terms of political risk and the reforms, I don't see any change in direction. In terms of election risks and inflation, generally in an election year, politicians spend quite a bit of money. That might slow down the downward trend of inflation. But apart from that, really, I don't see any significant risks. And I always advise everyone to always take a look at the largest investors in the economy, the largest Nigerian investors in the economy. In the last 15 years, none of them have stopped investing, and they're not dumb.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lewis. We're still taking questions. I will give about a minute. If you're still typing, we have Mr. Lewis, who spoke about the economy, opportunities, the founder of RealSect, and we still have Opeyemi Oduwole on the call. So a couple of minutes to take any further questions. I think we have time, and we should be wrapping up very shortly. Thank everyone for joining from wherever you session. Very insightful for you. You've learned one or two things, and like I said before, that you continue to engage with the community, because so I think I can wrap up the question. I don't see any further questions from the audience. No other questions. So like I said, we come to a close, and I'd just like to thank everyone. So all my speakers, I'll just run through all of them individually. Mr. Ayo Lewis, the Group Chief Risk Officer in Sterling Holdco. Thank you very much, sir, for taking the time to share with us today. Ada Ufomadu, the brain behind this vision. Thank you. Opeyemi Oduwole, Associate Director, Family Office and Private Clients, KPMG Nigeria. Thank you very much. And Lola isn't here anymore. Also, thank you for sharing her insights with us. Please engage. So the beginning. So engage, connect with us. Follow RealSect Nigeria on LinkedIn, on Instagram, on YouTube. There'll be more of this. There'll be more where this came from. RealSect Nigeria is officially live. We've unveiled, we've launched. So stay connected and just be part of the community that is committed to helping businesses thrive sustainably. My name is Ifeoma Fini. I work in the finance sector, but I also have my consulting firm where I moderate conversations like this. There's a question? So yes, we have one. Same from Osaho again. So this is for you, Opeyemi. How does one protect themselves from key man risk in healthcare, especially as a clinician? Opeyemi, that's for you. That's your question before you wrap up.
Healthcare is the service industry, right? And I tell people that if Ada drops the link to the podcast and people listen to the podcast, I love the manufacturing guys. As I said, I read in chemical engineering. You start with a particular product, you start with a process flow, you start with raw materials, you take them through a well-established process flow, you get your end product. Except something happens along the way. Can you hear me? You are fine.
Yes.
Like you're literally fine. I love it. I've worked in a factory before. You are fantastic. You can plan it. People is harder because you are trying to duplicate what is so fantastic in you without them losing their originality. So they're not supposed to become you. They're just supposed to pick those amazing traits in you and duplicate that. Now, it doesn't matter whether it is healthcare, whether it is banking, whether it is everything has to do with the fact that the basic standard of behavior must be clear. This is how we greet people. This is how we talk to people. This is how we address people. The basics. Some people will always be more amiable than others, and amiability in medicine does not equal to knowledge. I hope everybody knows that. Some of the nastiest doctors are the most intelligent, and that's the truth. So, and sometimes when it's a life issue, you're actually looking for who knows the job, not who is amiable, right? But in terms of basic engagement, you literally can create a process flow around your basic engagement. And you, like I said in the presentation, you are aggressive. When I mean aggressive, in a good way, and resilient about keeping those standards. So I don't care how fantastic you are. If you are disrespectful to a patient, we will not have it. And you will find out that there are certain standards that will be kept, but in things, service industries, honestly, some people don't have enough for it. And some people do better than others. But at least there will be a standard. I hope that helps.
Thank you very much, Opeyemi. I think we're wrapping up. Any other questions? I don't see any other questions. Ada has just put in the podcast link for the discussion that she had with Opeyemi on succession planning. So if you haven't watched that, go and watch it. It's excellent. So I thank my speakers. I'd like to thank all the participants. I think at one point we were about over 40. So I know maybe one or two have dropped off, but I'd just like to thank you for just taking the time to join us today for the unveiling. Like I said, stay connected, be part of the community. My name is Ifeoma Fini. Thank you very much and enjoy the rest of your evening.
Have a good evening, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.